pretty much just the input, so we don't have to worry about like writing too much.
Well, Rose, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. I feel like big boy right now because I got the everything. All right, so segment one, the studio's origin and growth. Why was Repercussion Studios created? Well, Repercussion Studios was created in my bedroom in my mama's house, and pretty much started recording a few of my friends. Early on, I recorded myself through a little, those little computer mics. It's like a tiny little dot, basically, and then we had to use pantyhose with a coat hanger. Pantyhose with a coat hanger as like a pop filter. And then I remember recording guitar and my voice. I forget what that program was, but it was like
It was like an older one, like Audacity or something, or
Audacity.
Audacity.
It was Audacity.
I feel like everybody started on Audacity at one point, except me.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. Screw that.
Yeah, so Audacity, and then I remember I wrote a song and on the guitar, and then basically made a song. I don't even know what happened to that song, but yeah, and then recorded a bunch of my friends. My friend Danny, who now writes for Blackpink and is like just super successful. And also Dave, my friend Dave. He's probably really important because he was the first person that really trusted in me as a producer and as an engineer and saw my musical vision and allowed me to kind of put my fingerprint on his music, you know. And then my friend Jason Day, and slowly people started coming to my house, and got to a point where it was getting a little weird to bring strangers to your house. Mm-hmm. So I rented a small little spot not too far from here, like 3 blocks away from here. My first studio, it was like 200 square feet, just under 300 square feet. And then we basically had a room with monitors, and we would just put our headphones on and, and record, but we made it work. And I started getting pretty busy and saw the need to expand, and then built Fishtown, then expanded again with AJ, Logic the Beat Man. And I can't tell the story of Repercussions without mentioning people, right? Because up until that point, probably I was already 10 years into it by myself, but then the story I feel like really started at 10 years, right? So from there is like when I met AJ, and then built that new studio in Fishtown. And then he and I, we grew to a point where we needed to expand. And that's when South Philly came in. And then from there, we added George, added Justin, added, Matt, Rose, so many other people. I mean, a lot of people are no longer with us at the studio, but that's a part of the journey, and that's a part of kind of it's like everybody wants to retire an Eagle, right? But it's rare that someone gets drafted and retires as an Eagle like Brandon Graham did today. But but I just think of it like a sports team, and that we're just one of the many sports teams or studios in the city. And, the whole objective is to make the Philly scene bigger, right? So we all can eat. But yeah, that was why it was created. Oh, I think I didn't even read the question right. But I heard origin, and so I thought the origin story was, how did George get involved in South Philly, And when we expanded, he was already running a room there. And honestly, I felt like the people at that studio didn't see the value of George. And I think that he was underappreciated because he's the hardest working guy I know. And he's just humble, hungry, and always growing, just slowly, steady, getting better and better at his craft. And I mean, I'm just blessed to just be his friend and share this journey with him now. But yeah, that is the long short of the story of Repercussions. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think the first time we met was through text message actually. It was funny. I think when the old studio was getting sold over, and I was trying to figure out my place and everything, I actually wound up texting Andy through the Repercussions page, literally like a month or two before everything went down. And I was asking for like freelance rates. I'm like, yo, what do you guys do for freelance rates? And he was giving me the numbers and everything. And then a couple weeks later, he wound up finding out that the guy I just texted was the guy that just bought the studio over. And I was like, oh, snap, look at that.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. So like I wound up messaging you again. I'm like, hey, man, look forward to, talking in person when, you buy the new spot over. And he's like, dang, I didn't even know we had a conversation already. I'll look forward to talking to you. So we wound up talking the first day that he came through. And yeah, I was running C room. I was in there. C room, weird layout. It was all like flat going across. It was bad. But it's funny to see that change from like that day to like where we're at now. Like, we're way closer. Back then it was like I didn't know Andy, and he was like the new guy that owned the spot. But now it's like that's my brother. Now we in this. Like we did this. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
this was a whole.
This. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an ordeal, man. And I'd never thought about doing something like this. I wanted to, and the cool part is now we got that opportunity to do it. And this place is dope, man. I ain't gonna lie. It looks great. I mean, just look at this. This looks great, So
Yeah.
we came a long way from that day one to where we're at now. And I'm like,
sure.
it's been a proud moment for like, I feel like for both of us.
Yeah.
It's been like a weird journey. We had a lot of ups and downs, but like right now, where we're sitting right now, it's been a really, really good like opportunity.
Yeah, sometimes for me, I think I always struggle with stopping and smelling the roses, right? Because I always feel like I see the 10-year progress, and I see how much work that needs to be done in the next 5 to 10 years, and how we need to grow, and trying to figure out that it's hard to like stop and smell the roses. So, but like this setup and just everything is definitely like a little victory, and something to be grateful for, because we've come a long way. This place was empty.
Literally cinder block walls and blue floors.
Yeah, blue floors, and yeah, man, it's really a blessing to have all this just come to life, and to have built it with you, and Rose and Matt and everybody, and even the interns, Lily and Alex. I mean, everybody, Mason, everybody was a part of the journey, for sure. Keon.
Yeah.
Freaking,
There was a bunch of us, man.
I mean, like I can't freaking even Tom, your friend Tom, right?
Oh yeah, Tommy from the camp.
Yeah, Tom came through. I remember everybody, man. Freaking Sean came through a lot of times. Dang, we gotta mention everyone now, because
Go through the list, man.
Because everybody deserves credit. You know what I mean? So,
There was blood, sweat, and tears to build this spot.
oh, literally,
A little bit of blood too.
literally.
It was a rough time though. But the cool part is like as a studio owner, like you were saying, you don't stop to smell the roses, but it's like you have to think macro minded. You got to think long term, because like in order to get to those long term moves, those short term moves got to happen first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those foundations got to happen first. And in order for us to even think about 5 years, 10 years down the line, if you don't think about the here and now, sometimes it kind of is like, well, how are we setting ourselves up?
Absolutely.
And I always like to think what like Elon said a couple years ago when he was talking about setting up something. It's like,
don't bring Elon up.
what? But this saying is crazy though.
Okay,
This saying is crazy because he put it into a perspective where it's like you got a 5-year goal, right? And your 5-year goal, how do you do it in 6 months? You know what I'm saying? Because now you're 5 years ahead of everybody else. So sometimes just taking that time to be like, all right, well, what can we do right now to set us up for the future is important.
I agree and disagree, because I think that true growth, when you grow too fast and you change too quickly, you let some mistakes happen.
True. True.
And so I think that it's good to have a macro vision, but a micro work ethic, right? Like
true.
Today, how much can I do today? How much can I do today? You know what I mean? And how can I delegate? How can I, because the thing is, being careless. This is something my wife always says to me, right? She's like, don't be sorry, be careful. And I think that being careful is very important in the way that you move. You know what I mean? Because just to change for change's sake, it's too disruptive sometimes. You know what I mean? And yeah, and you can hurt people along the way. You know,
true.
and that's the thing. It's like change at what cost, right? You know, and I think it's important to be a good leader that you think about that as well, right? It's not just change for money's sake or change for, you know what I mean? But really seeing who aligns with the vision, seeing who shows up, seeing what happens, you know, in that regard, I think it's very important because not everybody's journey is forever, you know what I mean? And so, and the thing is, in this industry, a lot of people don't have what it takes, you know, not that it's the talent, it's the gumption, it's the internal ability to suffer well, you know, and I think that a lot of people don't have that ability, you know, and I think that for someone like me that grew up in an immigrant home, that firsthand experience struggle and, you know, from my parents or secondhand, you know, I think that I always thought like, man, if I can work as hard as my parents did at this grocery store in North Philly as I do on my music career, ain't no way I can fail.
Slow and steady wins the race at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I remember saying this to someone, an artist before. It was like he was barely getting like 5,000 streams on his songs or things like that, you know, 3,000. I was like, yo, that's pretty impressive.
That's good for most, right?
That's great. And he was really getting down on himself. And then he hit 1 million.
Damn.
He hit 1 million. I was like, and I told him when he was hitting 3K, I was like, yo, there's going to come a day when you're going to start hitting 1 million streams because the way you work and the music that you create, it's good. Like, it's going to happen. But you're going to realize how empty that is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To hit 1 million streams and then what? I think Spotify gave him like a few dimes, you know?
Yeah.
And then he realized like, whoa, wow, that's not even...
That doesn't even cut it. It doesn't
that's
cut
not
it.
even the goal. You know what I mean? Like I thought that was the goal, but then it really doesn't even cut the cake, you know?
Right.
And so I think it's important to kind of like not be so results oriented, but to be journey oriented. Like, what can I do today, you know, and then let that compound slowly. And then like 10 years from now, you know, who knows what'll happen. And, you know, but yeah. What makes biggest challenges running a studio?
That's all you, brother.
I feel like I got to do a lot of talking.
Yeah, this whole section is you, man.
I know. It feels like, man, what's challenging running a studio? I think it's the people. I think dealing with people is the hardest part. I think it boils down to respect, and I think that this is my biggest mistake sometimes, and sometimes because a lot of the guys that grew up in the studio start as interns. Well, everybody started as interns and then became engineers, right? And the thing is, sometimes I think there's a little chip on the shoulder sometimes when interns come up and they feel like I don't respect them as engineers, or maybe I don't express that I respect them as a man or as their own individual, you know? And I think that's part of my personality. And so I'm not going to apologize for that, but like at the same time, that's the hardest part for me, like those relationships and measuring those, you know, dynamic things, because everybody has a different way to express and all these things. And for me, what's really important is the core values that you have and your principles, and being a person that can be dependable, you know, and someone that you can call on and be like, and then because as an engineer, I think that's vital, because you have to be inwardly a helpful person, right? And not a self-seeking person, right? A person that's only interested in bettering themselves. Because I think it comes with the territory of being an engineer that you are others oriented first, right?
Yeah.
Rather than myself oriented. And I think that there should be a combination of that. I think that everyone should pursue it selfishly, pursue their career selfishly in a way where it's like, I want to be the best at what I do.
Absolutely.
Right? You know, I want to be the best engineer. I want to be the best whatever, you know. And so that is something that is very important. But it's also the biggest challenge for me, the people. Long short of that again, you know.
Well, you got to think too, you're dealing with multiple different personalities. You know what I mean? So like there's some that could be on the side with you the whole time, and then you got some that can be doing stuff that's like detrimental to the business.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like when you think about it, you got to think for the business and how to sustain the business. And if something is being detrimental to the business, then it's going to be, you know, it's a no-no, right? You don't want to do that. You want to keep the business running.
Reputation is very fragile.
Yeah.
Right? And it's something that you can build for 10 years, and then over one moment, it could all go away.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I firsthand have experienced that because I am human and I have a lot of interactions, and so a lot of mistakes get tossed in there because I'm only human, and you know, and I deal with things outside the studio, you know, and stresses outside of this business, you know, and so, you know, that's all, you know, I'm a work in progress, you know, and I'm not gonna, you know, be hard on myself, but, you know, that's something I'm working on every day and trying to strive better to be better. And I think that's a part of being good at what you do, right? Constantly striving to see what you can do and getting better at what you can do. And I think that, you know, very Mamba mentality of me. You know, I've been told I'm like Bill Belichick a lot of times. It's like recording with Bill Belichick.
That's a segment right there. Recording with Bill Belichick. We don't deflate microphones.
Because I'm constantly thinking of what's next. What's next? What do we have to do? And then I celebrate. Once it's all done and I feel like, oh, that feeling is good, that's when I celebrate. Because that's the best feeling.
Yeah.
You know? When you can help see a person's vision in a song and see it come to life in a way where it's like it exceeds even their expectation. You know, they're like, oh, I thought it was going to sound, it's even better than that.
Yeah, when you get those voice messages with like, yo, bro, this is fire. Those moments right there are just like, I'm doing this for them.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, you just got to separate yourself as an engineer, because a lot of guys want to put their whole heart and soul into something and make it theirs, but it's not. We're not here for us. I'm not creating the song. I'm the final piece of the puzzle. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm the guy that's just going to fine tune and glue. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, every engineer is an SSL compressor, and we're here to glue each other. Pause. But we're here to bring everything together at the end of the day. Like, when it comes down to relationships and people, we bring people together. You know what I mean? When it comes to the mix, we're putting things together. When we're putting artists together, you know, we can collaborate with different people, and we're that person, that center point that brings all of it together. And a lot of people don't understand that, and they want to put too much of themselves, or they want the mix to sound how they want it to sound. And at the end of the day, it's really coming down to the client. The client needs to feel happy with their product. And if I'm not getting those text messages or those phone calls saying, oh my God, this song is fire, it's kind of like, what did I do something wrong? You know what I mean? It makes it feel like I didn't do enough. Yeah. But when I do get them, I'm like, satisfaction. When he goes back to talking about, you know, celebrating those wins, that's a win for me. Every single time I get those text messages or phone calls or any of that stuff, it's a win for me. And that's when you celebrate. You know what I mean? Like, weight's off my shoulders, clients accepted the mix and they're happy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And did they also have a good time during the session is a big thing for me too. You know, because if they didn't have a good time during the session, I feel like I wasn't, again, adding to that session. I wasn't giving what I can give to that session to keep the energy and the vibe going.
Some cats be weird. It's like, bro, 30 minutes into our session, you still gonna wear that ski mask?
Nah, you know what gets me?
Aren't you hot?
It's not even that. When they get the ski mask on while they're trying to record it, like this, it's covering their mouth, and they're like right here with it. I had a guy like that a couple weeks ago, and I was like, "Hey, bro, you got the mask on?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, I can't hear you." So I'm like hearing muffles the whole time, and his boy was like, "Yeah, you gotta take it off, bro." I'm like, I thought that would have been something like common sense, right? Like, you need to hear what's coming out of your mouth, not have it obstructed by a ski mask. Yeah. But I guess that kind of goes into a little bit of studio, some studio pet peeves, right? Yeah. Talking about some of that stuff. Yeah, but I think we went over what makes a great engineer, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like we went over that a little bit.
I would love your opinion. What to you makes a great engineer?
I mean, for me, it really comes down to take yourself out of the equation. You know what I mean? If you're going to be the engineer in the room, you need to be the guy that is strictly there for the client. Going back to what Andy said earlier, we're here as like a servitude. You know what I mean? It's a service. At the end of the day, when you book a session, it's a service. So I'm here to provide a service. So we're waiters, right? So I'm going to do what you want done to the song. And I'm totally open if you say, hey, you got creative control. That's fine. But a lot of the times I would like to have it where the artist understands what they want. Because not to say that I can't figure it out, but at the end of the day, I want them to walk away with something that they love and they're satisfied with it. Really, I tell it all the time, 80% relationship, 20% skill. If I can't have a conversation with you outside of the studio about anything else besides music, it's kind of hard sometimes. You know, I like to build those relationships with people. I'll randomly call guys up. You know, we got one of our guys, Mula, the ticket. He was MIA for a little bit. He had a little stuff going on. And I was just like, oh, man, let me hit him up and see what he's doing. And we just talked for like 30 minutes. You know what I mean? Just like, hey, how's things going? How's the family? Because at the end of the day, like these artists aren't just artists anymore. They become part of my family, like the studio family. Mm-hmm. So if I can have just honest conversations with them about life, I think because sessions could turn into therapy sessions real quick. You know what I mean? We've all been there in those sessions where we sitting there talking about music and next thing you know, damn, life sucks. I'm like, yeah, don't it? You know what I mean? Like, it's just honest truth. I seen your sessions. I know you have some of those conversations too. The one time I walk in and Andy's doing a session in Fishtown, he's talking about finances. Like, oh, yeah. Andy goes into the whole like stock market talk with the guy. But that's the thing. It's like, we're not just here to talk music. We are, but like we're human beings too. We talk about other stuff. You call me about some Star Wars stuff, it's game over. I am talking to you about everything. I know it all. Everything. That's the segment we're going to do too. Star Wars and engineering. Boom. Put it together. But you know what I mean? Like I need to understand you as a person to also help you create something beautiful. You know what I mean? And if I know who you are and I know what you're about, you know what I mean? We just click, you know? And it gets to the point where even the artist doesn't even have to tell me, hey, you know, do this. Like, cause I already know what they like. So I start figuring them out. So it's kind of like I said, it's therapy. You know, we're all here to do the same thing, but if I can understand you as a person, it's going to help me perform and do your mixes better, get the recordings better, and then utmost have a better quality at the end of the session.
You know, the more I do this, I feel like when I was younger, I thought more like that. But now that I'm older, I do think that there's also a side of it where it's like, you're just a hired assassin, you know? Like, you here to kill things. You know what I mean?
Mix.
Let me kill this mix real quick, you know? And the thing is, it's like having tastes align, you know, having everybody wants, you know, to be similar. And I think that finding that chemistry with your client is really important, you know, so that, and I think that, like you said, you're really there to serve, right? Mm-hmm. And so, like, you know, it's like, hate to throw anime. But you're like,
cool with that.
I like to think that I'm like Kakashi from Naruto.
I can see that.
You know, and whereas that like I can copy any style, I can copy anything. You know, not copy it, but I can recreate it, reimagine it, and make it yours. You know, it's kind of like, you know, a kitchen renovation. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I want to save you some money on materials and all the stuff, but I'm gonna get you there, you know? And I think that that's kind of my style, where I feel like, because quality is the thing that I think a lot of times people don't think about, especially nowadays, because a lot of younger guys, I feel like they hear distortion and MP3 quality, and so they don't understand fidelity. And so but when you start to hear like certain records, like some of the Roddy Ricch stuff, like sonically sounds so good, like, and it's full spectrum, you know, and it's like, it's Fruity Loops, but it's like, it sounds great. No, but I'm saying it is though, you know, and it's fine. And I think Fruity Loops sounds amazing, you know, but I'm talking about fidelity, and I think that fidelity is the thing that people don't really think about. And I think that that's really important. Like, accomplish your sound, but it has to be highest fidelity also. And if people are so glued to this distorted MP3 sound that their ear for quality is gone.
Yeah, it starts to diminish over time. You know what I mean? You start to think like that's the norm, you know? And it's like when we say otherwise, it's like, nah, but it does come down to like the sound of it too. You know what I mean? Like there is a set genre that tends to work out for that, but you can recreate that using a wave file. You know what I mean? It's just squashing it a little bit harder, you know what I mean, on some of the mastering. But that MP3 quality, though, it's definitely one of those things that everybody's like looking more towards, which is kind of sad because I feel like we're downgrading.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like as we get more in this technology, we're downgrading our quality, which is kind of like, you know what I mean? Not to knock BandLab, but it's a great tool. And if you can get a great mix on there, phenomenal. But if you're going to try to sit there and send it to me to mix, it's not going to be the same, especially if you're recording it off the little AirPod headphones. You know what I mean? Like if I'm getting a recording and you had this thing right next to your mouth like that, it's not going to be what you want it to be. You're setting the bar lower than you should be. You should be raising that bar. And sometimes that bar for some people is I don't know.
I think a lot of people don't see the value of going to a studio because when you work with the engineer, that's good. And you work with and you record your song through gear, that's good, right? You make the job easier.
Mm-hmm.
If you come in prepared, you come in ready, and you lay it down and you do it, I think the people that do this for a living are, they do this like a job, and you can't sit there and come in unprepared all the time and expect. You can if you think you're capable of it, if you've practiced it, but you can't come to the studio the first time and think that you saw some rapper freestyle his whole verse and think that you can do that the first time you go to a studio, and it's just something that's not realistic, and I think that, that you're kind of setting yourself up for failure, and I think it's good to have a plan of what you're going to do in the studio. It saves you from having to engineer for the next 10 years to make it sound half as good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't feel like I got any good until I hit my 10-year mark. Yeah. I ain't gonna lie. Like, I think that was my biggest helpful tip is like moving from studio to studio because I got complacent with the small room, and obviously that wasn't doing me any good. Wound up doing Fishtown, I think, a couple months after Andy bought the space over, and that was a eye-opening revelation of like how crappy my stuff sounded, especially considering how good Fishtown sounded. Fishtown was like really, really good, and you and AJ did a great job building that spot, but I didn't get a feel of what my mixes sounded like until I stepped into that room.
Yeah.
Jumping into a different room opened my eyes up to that. You know what I mean? And then doing A room in South and then B room in South. And now here, every room has taught me something different. So it's really kind of like jump into a different room if you can. And you know what I mean? Even if you can do monitor change ups, you know what I mean? Do anything to kind of change it up so that you can hear what's happening throughout the different setups we have, because nobody's going to use the same speaker setups in a club. Nobody's going to use the same speaker setups in a car. Everything is different. So you need to be able to reference yourself in your mixes in like different areas. So
yeah, the studio shouldn't matter.
No,
because I remember when I went to the Yeezus concert, right? You guys remember that one where he's on? That's when he brought the mask in.
Yeah, I remember
like that. And I went with my boy Danny. Man, what a great memory. But yeah, and I remember hearing Black Skinheads purely from a sonic perspective. Absolutely wild. I felt that thing hit my chest. Like, I was just like, every single hit would just like, it felt like it was piercing my chest and my heart. And I was like, I've never experienced this kind of loudness before. Yeah. And I was like, whew, that sonically is crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the thing that engineers have to remember to feel and think about, how can you push things sonically, push these things to a point where it gives people almost a real physical experience.
Yeah.
It's intense. And so that's what's going to make people want to move and express themselves. And so to me, that's what I like to mix for, and I think that's the thing that I'm always trying to picture is like, how is it going to sound in an appropriate manner, right? Like, if it's a singer-songwriter with a guitar, I'm not trying to make that thing sound like a Travis Scott record,
What?
But I'll make
It's
it sound
lit.
I'll make it sound smooth for like an elevator or something,
For an
elevator music, like. But that's what I'm saying though. Like being appropriate is a part of being a great chef. It's important to remember those little things. Like how do I make what's appropriate, and how do I enhance the main thing, rather than let's enhance everything. And you get so micro into your mix. And I've seen when you got the Batman EQ going on the vocal, and like what I'm talking about, just the crazy moves, and like, are you sure you're even hearing it? And you bypass it, and it's like, oh, that sounds so much better.
Yeah, sometimes less is more, man. Less is more. And I feel like and it goes back to like the tech part now. So it's like most of us are like, oh, I have 10 inserts I can use in Pro Tools for plugins. Cool, I'm going to use all 10. And it's like, is it really necessary to do all 10? I can get and this goes back to something I learned in school. My professor, when we were first starting out, he said, you need 3 things to make a good record. You need an EQ, a compressor, and some type of room sound, whether it be a delay, slap, reverb. Literally, that's all you need to make a good record. And it shows a lot of times. Like when you listen to a lot of these big records, they don't have a lot. They're not doing a lot unless it's made for that. Like if you're doing the Travis Scott stuff, then yeah, you're going to freaking go crazy with it. But going Silk Sonic and Bruno Mars and stuff like that, his stuff is so simple. It's literally vocals being compressed well, being EQ'd well, a little bit of room sound, maybe some tasteful delay throws.
Yeah.
That's it, guys. Literally, that's all it is. And if you understand that point, then your engineering skills are going to be top tier.
Yeah, I think that thinking of those things is appropriate, right? Like, do I want this to sound like a modern record, or do I want this to sound like it's from the 70s, or do I want this to sound like, I love the Billie Eilish record, When I'm Alone With You. Happily Ever After.
Y'all getting a free session. You're getting a free.
Happily Ever After. I think that song, but in the beginning of it, they record it like she's doing a 50s record. It sounds, the fidelity of it sounds like a 50s record.
Yeah,
like it doesn't have that high end, and then also kind of has that nasally thing going on that a lot of those 50s records have. And then it starts to build, and then the guitars come in. And it starts to sound like a freaking like a early 2000s punk rock record. You know what I mean? And then the fidelity comes in,
builds up.
And builds up, and then it just goes crazy. And I think that record is such a good example of taste.
Cool. I feel like we got through like a lot of the nitty gritties of being an engineer. So trying to do some fun stuff?
Sure.
All right, cool. These are fun questions. I was looking at them. I'm like, oh, snap, Rose, you came in clutch. Favorite gear or plugin right now?
Oh, man.
We're going to be here a while.
Sonic's Inflator again. I've been using that again. Yeah, it's always been amazing, but
it's one of those things that you leave it for a little bit. You're like, I don't need it. I got God Particle. And then you come back and Inflator's hot.
Yeah, Inflator's crazy. And I still like that thing so much. Yeah, I just been using it again. I've been using it on my masters even.
Yeah,
and
that's nice.
And I love the way it sounds. Yeah, at least that's my short answer.
It's up in the air for me right now because I've been doing a little bit more different stuff with my mixes lately. But shout out to Rose for putting me on the Abbey Road. What's that? The TG mastering thing. But that thing is so good. I use it for 2 things: the tape emulation and the spreader. That's it, right? That's it. That's the sauce right there. The tape emulation and the spreader. But you gotta do the tape emulation on the. I like the 15. You like the 7.5. Yeah, but it's like there's 2 sides of 15 ips. So you got like I forgot it's 2 types of tape. But the 15 ips on the left side is kind of nice. It's like it's warm. It's got like a silky feel. But then you do the 7.5 on the right side, and if you need some 808s to cut through, your 808s are cutting through. Like that thing sits so I was sitting there. He put it on a session one time, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, ew, what is that? Like, you know what I mean? And then I use it one day. I'm like, let me just try real quick. And I had to text Rose. I'm like, yeah, so about that Abbey Roads thing. Yeah, that's nice. And then the spreader is really cool, too, because it doesn't do it where it does a lot of phasing. It's kind of nice. Like, I mean, it could get a little weird because then everything, I think it's like a parallel spreader. It's not doing it like on the actual thing. So you're getting that extra bit of width without losing the center information.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
I mean, tape essentially has that built in. That's the wow flutter thing, right? I think, right?
But it probably already has it automatically integrated. Like, it doesn't give you a setting to change that. It literally just says change the IPS, add the input, and that's it. But the spread on that thing it's been my favorite. Especially
I feel like I've seen the plugin.
It's like a blue one, right? It has like 5 modules.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It's like tape, and you got tone generator, some like filters, stuff like that. There's a bunch of stuff on there.
Let me see. We could.
I don't got it, man.
Oh, you don't got it?
No,
okay.
I got the good plugins on my home computer. This one just is mine. All right, cool. Late night snack, a studio snack.
Late night studio snack. Oh man.
Nah, bro. No. I got one.
Coffee for me and a donut.
That's a snack?
Yeah, I usually get a
cop?
donut and some coffee. I mean, I love coffee, and
you doing that at late night?
Yeah, I'll do that at late night.
Nah, you're
too.
crazy.
Yeah, I drink coffee at night. I can still go to sleep.
No, I'm up all hours of the night at that point. But I'm the one that's sitting there drinking a Monster at like 9 o'clock at night, getting ready for my sessions.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing.
I don't know. Something about coffee at night, it just doesn't do it for me. I need something like sugary.
Interesting.
So I'll do, and I've been coming to this too, coming in at night with them. So I'll have like a Monster at night and my twin snakes.
I do like those twin snakes. I was actually thinking of that because you always bring them in, and I was like, I like those too.
And my twin
snakes. The sour ones?
Yeah, it's like the sour and sweet, man, and you got both sides.
I like the sour worms. Yeah.
That and the Nerds ropes. Me and Matt have been on that like crazy.
Those nerd. The nerd
gummies.
gummies.
It's a sweet tart rope. That's what it is.
But the nerds, the
gummy
nerds
clusters?
gummies clusters.
Oh.
Those things are little crack.
You just like
little crack balls, man. Those things are really bad for you.
I know.
Yeah, I think half my teeth have rotten away because of those.
I'm gonna be the old guy that has a sweet tooth with no teeth. All right. If you could mix any album in history, what would it be?
Oh,
that's an interesting one, man. Why would you do that?
Oh,
that's a good one, though.
If you could mix any album in history.
History, though, that's a long time.
That's
man.
a lot of albums. There's a lot of albums.
He said, "Do the Michael stuff." I would.
I mean, who wouldn't want to have done Thriller, right?
Thriller would have been, yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's the everyone answer though.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you gotta do something where it's like
shows your individuality.
Yeah.
A Dr. Dre album, I think one of them.
See, the thing is though, if we're mixing it, Dre mixed a lot of his stuff though, right? So like, I wouldn't be even touching that because he did it all.
That's true.
At that point, I would just be like, "Yo, can I just send a session? Can I see what you did on that board?" Like,
but I mean, like, if you were the one to create that, if you were to switch places with Dr. Dre,
if I were to switch places, that would not be memorable. Y'all would have been like, "This is ass."
That's true.
But like that, there's certain. It's hard for me because like, would I wanted to be the guy in the seat? Absolutely, the accolades and all that stuff that go along with it. If I were to mix it at the same quality and level as the original that we got,
of course, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's what the question is saying. Yeah,
that's what the question is.
That's,
all right, cool.
Okay.
If that's the
so
question,
what is
that's
the album that you would if you were to have been the one to have mixed it, right? So I think Thriller is the easy answer. I love College Dropout. I love College Dropout. I don't know why, but it's one of those I wish, because it feels like something I already do. Because when I listen back to that album, I feel like the quality of that album is something that I do constantly. Like, as like, you could hear the 2-track vocals, and those things. I mean, dang. For me, Lauryn Hill, Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I mean, like, look at my hoodie.
You can't see it. The mic's in the way.
L Boogie. Lauryn Hill. Miseducation. That woman made one album and changed history. That is
crazy.
She made one album and changed history. I think I think I named my son Zion. I mean, like, that's one album I almost don't ever want to meet her, because I know people that know her, and I mean, I don't know if I'll ever have the chance to meet her, but like, I almost don't want to, because I regard her
So high.
so differently.
Yeah.
I don't want the image of what I know of her to be tainted. I mean, but I mean that's my own quirk. But what about you?
This is tough, man. Rose, why you gotta do this to me, bro? I mean, yeah, Michael's definitely one of those easy ones. But
I'll go new, like a J. Cole 2014.
I
J.
mean,
Cole, 2014 J. Cole. Okay. Which one is that? Forest Hill Drive?
that's a good one. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
I don't know. You know what's crazy? They just came out
To
with
Pimp a Butterfly?
the Pimp a Butterfly. That's a good one.
That's a good one. Oh, you know who I love? Bruno Mars. I love the Silk Sonic record.
Yeah,
That record I think is
Clean.
sonically so beautiful.
they
Like,
did that so good.
yeah, that execution, crazy, and the songs on it are so good. Smoking out the window.
It goes back to what you were saying earlier, though, making that vibe of that day and age, but with a modern twist. You know what I mean? That sound
Absolutely.
is super clean, super modern, but it still gives me the vibe of like I'm in the 60s and 70s. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's got that energy. And just the way that he sings, bro, he has that like voice to make it just be like soulful. Yeah, you know what I mean?
I think I put Bruno Mars in the GOAT category,
No, absolutely.
I think the thing is I think we're in an age where people are so jaded by greatness, right? Like guys like LeBron don't get their flowers. Kobe didn't get his flowers when he was alive,
Right.
until after he died,
Yeah.
right? And I think that we're in such a jaded society where we don't recognize that like Jalen Hurts is one of the greatest quarterbacks ever.
Always got to bring back the Eagles.
I love that guy, man.
I'm out this podcast.
He is Jalen Hurts is truly a special. You know, I think that Bruno Mars is like that, right? Like he's truly gifted musically, and I think that the last time someone was so gifted, like Prince, you know what I'm saying? Like that kind of level where musicianship, songwriting, you know, concept, thoughtfulness, and like, man, that guy is just on another level. And then like we're just mere mortals that get to appreciate his songs. You know, like he's truly crazy.
All right, we got a fun one here. Star Wars or Call of Duty? Who wins in a battle? You want to elaborate a little bit more on that one?
Star Wars or Marvel?
You want to do that instead?
Oh, you
Stop, because you've been on Marvel Rivals.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm on the Marvel side, but
You hopped on Rivals yet?
Yeah, I can't do it.
Get on it.
Try it.
Do it.
I've tried it.
Try it with us.
Yeah.
Try it with us. Try it with us.
We're over here trying
It sucks when you're by yourself and
Yeah.
you have no one to kind of
You gotta
like
do the
walk you
teamwork.
through it.
teamwork
and
makes
it's-
the dream work.
It can be kind of like overwhelming at first. You know what I mean? Because like there's a lot of characters, a lot of abilities, and it's like, you know, you just need someone to help break you in. You know.
All right, so we're switching now for Star Wars or Marvel. Who wins?
So we can do 3 parts. So Call of Duty, who wins?
Out of us two?
Y'all two.
Oh.
And then you can do Marvel or Rivals. I mean, you know, the first one.
Come find me in Gran Turismo though.
Bro, I told you my numbers last night were on point, man.
Find me in
I
Gran
got a
Turismo.
podium spot last night.
Actually, no, we're on the same team though.
Yeah.
So when we're on Call of Duty, we're usually on the same team.
Yeah, Warzone
And so-
was
Oh, we were
Warzone
into
was
DMZ for a bit. remember?
DMZ was crazy.
DMZ, that was a lot of fun.
I still remember the one time Andy came in with the freaking Dragon Breath shotgun and took out the entire crew, and we're all dead. Andy comes in like, I got this. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, it was like
Great
4
times.
on 1.
Great
4 on
times.
1. They came into the house,
They were coming for us.
and I was like, guys, this is getting bad. I was the last one. I was in the closet. And I was like, why? And I was
Yo,
like,
it was real,
I was
man.
like, you know what? I got this, guys. Don't worry. Because I knew I had the Dragon Breath shotgun, and that thing, I killed all 4 of them.
Mind you,
We
I'm on
res
the
my team.
floor, like trying to get rezzed, and I just see Andy run over my body, and then he just starts taking these dudes out. I'm like, yeah.
I think we were on when that happened, we were on like 15 win
Oh, we were on
streak
a
or
streak,
something.
yeah.
We were on some like
It was
crazy
up there.
streak. And we just had all the gear, all the, you know, because, you know, DMZ, you take your gear with
Yeah.
you. And so we were, that was a killer.
That was a good time.
So I
That was a good
can't say, he's my, you know what I mean? We work together, you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, our
communicate.
chemistry started in Call of Duty.
Yo, for real, right? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
Call of Duty brought us together.
I gotta go. I gotta go with you to Airsoft.
Yo, that's what I'm saying. If you talking about against me now, it's a different story because I got a little airsoft experience.
I'd rather be on your side, man.
Yeah,
why
that's
would
a
I
smart
wanna,
move for you.
Why would So I don't think of you as an opponent.
Oh, no.
I think of you as my ally.
Nah.
You know.
Until we hit that airsoft field, so 1v1, bro, we on. Pistols only. No, I was kidding. All right, so that was Call of Duty. What was the other one? Star Wars?
Star Wars or Marvel. Who wins?
Who wins?
Yeah.
Like the characters? Characters? Marvel, easily.
Nah, bro, what are you talking about? What are you doing here? I
Marvel,
told you I'm a
easily.
Star Wars guy. So, like, if I say Star Wars is not going to win against Marvel, I am not doing myself justice.
What are they gonna do? What?
They got lightsabers. They got force powers. I swear.
What are you gonna do
Wanda
to
comes
Scarlet
up,
Witch?
Scarlet Witch
What
will
are you
come
gonna
out
do
with something,
to-
and I'm gonna force push her.
What are you gonna do to Galactus? What are you going?
Galactus?
What are you gonna do to Silver Surfer? What are you gonna do to even Spider-Man?
Oh no, because I got. There's way more stronger people than y'all don't know about. Okay, if y'all going through the history,
Hulk?
nah,
You think-
I
you
could
think-
lightsaber the Hulk, bro? It's a freaking plasma blade. I don't care if he's gamma. We have a Thor. We have a Hulk. I can deflect the lightning though with the
Dark
with the
Phoenix.
lightsaber. Dark Phoenix though.
Come on,
All right.
what are you gonna do to Dark Phoenix? What are you gonna do?
It sucks because I do have to go with Marvel for this one. I was trying to really make a fight for it, but it wasn't
mean-
working. It was not working
Yeah,
because a lightsaber is only gonna do me so good. I'm be like,
yeah, lightsaber's not good. Yeah,
let me get Wanda's ult from Rivals and I'm done. Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Chaos. All right, cool. That was a fun one. Dream collab, artist and
collab?
producer combo. Now this is for mainstream or just anybody in general.
I guess anyone.
Okay. I mean, I do that now. I got the creative camp. I bring them all together. Coming soon. Yeah. Content.
Dream collaboration, like who I want to work together. I would like to work with. Oh man, I don't really think like that, but
It's hard, right? Because it's like you kind of want to work with as many people as you can. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's like
yeah.
I like people, so I want to work with as many of you guys as possible.
Hey man, like Beyonce, Jay-Z, I would love to record Jay-Z.
Yeah,
That would be
It'd be the
crazy.
easiest session though.
Bro, he be in
I don't
and
think
out.
that I don't think I'm on the spiritual level to have the authority to run a. Hey, Mr.
wouldn't
Carter,
wanna
can you
do-
do that? Take one more time, please.
No, I'll be
Pro
the,
Tools froze. I'm so sorry.
I'll be the quiet guy, and Rick Rubin will do all the talking for me.
Oh, Rick Rubin. I would love to be in a session.
Just
with Rick
just in
Rubin.
the presence.
Yeah, just like the presence
being
of
in the-
people.
No, I think
Yeah.
that's my guy, Rick Rubin.
Yeah, I'd love to see Pharrell. I'd love to see how he creates. You know. Yeah, I mean Bruno Mars and that whole. Yeah, I think that. I feel like they would have a lot of fun.
I would want to be in a room watching Dave Pensado or Jason Joshua mix.
See, I wouldn't want that.
Why not?
I don't.
Because why is it going to be like an eye opener? Be like, yo, I already do that. What am I watching you for?
Yeah, I
Because a lot of times you realize that, right?
yeah, you
Like,
can do those things, but for me personally, I'd rather be in a moment and an experience than acquire a skill. Right?
I
I want to
wouldn't
be
try-
able to tell a story that is like, I was there when this. You hear this song on the radio. I was there when that song. I was a part of that. You know, or I think that to me is, or like to
You're
have
talking
like
about like the creation of the song.
yeah.
Okay. See,
yeah.
I'm
Those
thinking about it
moments
like
to me are more important than
the mixing part.
the mixing part, you know, because I think the mixing part comes almost like a given. Like
it's gonna be done.
It's gonna be done. It's
Yeah.
you know, but I'd like to see what inspired the moment, right? Like, how did we arrive here to create this song? And I think that to me is the most. I think that's the thing you can't take away,
Nah,
right?
nah.
Because
Those moments are special.
yeah,
You know what I mean? You gotta come to the camp. Gotta watch that firsthand. All right. Cool. I think
With this
that's
one, advice for new.
Yeah,
Do you
you
want
got
to do
it.
those?
You want to do those? Yeah, let's go. So for new artists, my advice is learn what we're doing. I think if you guys can communicate with us on a first-hand basis and understand, not you don't have to go into details. I'm not saying learn the details, but like understand what you're looking for and understand what we're doing, so that when you ask for something, you know how to ask for it. Granted, most of us are pretty good at like interpreting what you guys want, but for the most part, if you can describe it in a way, that helps out a lot. Engineers, learn how to be a people person. If you can't be a people person, it's hard to have artists want to be in the room with you. So if you can be a good people person, have a conversation outside of the studio and outside of music, just be an approachable person. I think that's a really good tool. It's led me to where I'm at right now, because if I wasn't a good people person and my mixing was trash back in the day, I definitely wouldn't be here. But since I was a good people person, it was kind of like artists were open to still working with me because they knew that I was growing and I was learning and I was taking the time to really push myself to be something better. But if I was a jerk and still learning, they'd just be like, screw it, I'm not going to deal with you. So yeah, be a people person, somebody that can, you know, have just an honest conversation with. That's my biggest thing.
I guess my advice would be to detach yourself from results. You know, I think the big thing is music is one of those things. It's not essential, right? It's not essential, and to be something that someone will seek out to enjoy is really an honor and a privilege. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
no, that's a great feeling.
yeah, and it's like when people are seeking out your music and seeking out listening to you, you know, it's not easy. It's not something that's going to just come off your first record. You know, you're going to have to develop thick skin. You're going to have to learn to take criticism to get better at your craft constantly. Take feedback well, and grow. But also, in the midst of all that, have a vision.
With that being said,
Uh-huh.
what's next for the studio? What's next for Repercussions?
The camp.
That is right. The camp is next.
Tell us
April
more about the
19th and
camp.
20th.
Tell us more about
Huh?
the camp.
Eventually, we'll get there. But yeah, the camp. If you guys are interested in the camp, it is on Instagram, Creative Camp CC. What the camp does is it brings artists, producers, musicians, anybody who's a creative in the room to be able to create something magical for that weekend. We're in here from sun up to sundown, and it's one of those things, like if you're not in the room, you're missing out on a lot, you know. And it goes back to what Andy was talking about, seeing the creation of something from the ground up. That's more important than just the mixing part. And it's kind of true. I ain't gonna lie. I didn't have that same mentality until I started doing camps, because I was just the guy that was mixing. Most of the time, guys came in and had stuff prepared, or they were kind of like, you know, freestyling it on the spot. But this is something where it's like you're taking multiple people, and their styles and gelling them together and being able to make something cool. So with that being said, we do have our first album release happening on April 19th. So that is actually the same
How
day.
many songs are on that album?
17.
17 songs.
Yeah.
So
17 songs.
Is that the last two camps that you've had?
Yeah, so that was from Camp 1 and Camp 2. So we took a vote on the best of those songs. Now, mind you, from Camp 1 and Camp 2, we made about 30-some songs.
Wow.
So 30-some songs.
Wow.
We condensed it down to 17.
And this is 2-day weekend.
Yeah.
Over 2 days.
Yeah, and it's a lot that gets done in these 2 days, because these guys are good. I mean, the beauty about the camp is that these guys come in and they're excited about it. You know what I mean? It's not people that are just doing it just to do it. Like, they're excited. Like, they talk about it till this day. If you guys see that camp chat does not stop talking. But it's great, because it also is not only just bringing in great artists together, but it's building a family in that sense too, where now artists that weren't confident themselves are now confident. Artists that weren't doing shows are now doing shows. Artists that wanted to just work solo are starting to realize that they work better in a group. Yeah. So I think bringing music together in a collaborative sense is important. And that's something that I'm striving to do in this camp. I want everybody to be able to come together and do something that's going to be memorable. You know, we all saw the Dreamville documentary. You know, and I think that's where a lot of this whole thing came from, is like seeing that process of being able to create in that sense was something that I kind of wanted to recreate with this camp. And that's kind of what it's been taken forward. It's just like people want to be here. They want these things. Like if it wasn't for us having to build a new spot, we probably would have thrown in a third one last year because they wanted to do them so often. But again, the whole point of this, quality, not quantity. We had 30 songs. I picked 17. That's not bad, but we do want to bring quality work to the masses. So I'm going to continue to do that. And again, next one's on April 19th and 20th of this year. So it's going to be fun.
Looking forward to that.
Heck yeah, let's get it.
To that. That's really exciting. I mean, George, you bring people together. Like, you know, you are the embodiment of 80% relationship, 20% skill, right?
I'm getting a t-shirt with that made. I'm just saying.
I think that's a great.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do it.
That's
like,
a great.
That's a great slogan because, like,
yeah.
it's the truth, man.
Yeah.
I feel like if it wasn't for me taking that ideal and making it into something real, like I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like I'd still
Absolutely.
be working a 9-to-5 gig, but just me being able to take that perspective has really helped me to do this full time, man. So
Yeah.
where can people find us?
Can people
Here.
find us?
You can find me here anytime.
You can find us in the studio.
Anytime, any day, you name it.
We just need a deposit.
But no, yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram, GM Productions, and on the website, I'm on there as well, George Marquez, GM Productions. You guys can book sessions with me via there.
Yeah, and I'm on the social media, so I'm also at Repercussion Studios, and you can just message me there. I'm usually the one answering all the phone calls and the questions. I mean, we all answer the phone calls together, but if you're texting the studio line, I'm the one answering that. If you're DMing the studio on social media, Facebook, Instagram, etc., you're reaching me as well. And so, yeah, whatever you guys need, you know, want to hear from you, want to talk art. We want to talk about your art and how to create it to the best of your ability and all those things. So, yeah. All right. So, end it.
First podcast, we don't know how to end it.
All right.
We like you talking.
So thank you so much for tuning in. This is the first Repercussion Studios podcast. My name's Andrew. I'm the owner of Repercussion Studios, and this is
George.
You can find us on Instagram. Call us, you know, if you want a session or if you want to work. Just let us know. All right. And Rose behind the helm.
He'll be here next time. You'll see his face.
Yeah, he's also on the schedule. And so if you ever want to work with Rose is the guy behind the camera doing the video and also recording the podcast. And producing the podcast. He produced this and gave us
literally, yeah,
these questions. And so kudos to Rose for putting all this together. We just had to show up, and that was pretty great. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, Rose.
All right, so tune in next week. We're gonna try to make this. Tune in next week. Thank you guys for joining in. Peace.
Deuces. Yeah.
You gotta probably